I read 20 books in the first 6 months of 2025. Let's discuss them. I'm gonna make life very easy for you guys and we're literally just gonna hop straight in. The first book I finished was Tower of Dawn. This is the 7th book in the Throne of Glass series. A fantasy series, massive, by Sarah J Maas. I can almost guarantee you've heard of it. Our main character, Aelin, is our main FMC throughout the entire series. However, this is like a side male character who is a main character in the first 3 books, not so much in the rest, but he does get his own book further into the series for his character development, character arc. I gave it a 4 stars. Obviously, if you haven't read the series, you're not really gonna know much, so I'm not gonna get too much into this one, but I definitely do recommend. A lot of people do skip this book in the series because they don't like reading about this specific person. However, I love him, so there you have it. After reading such a big fantasy book, I was craving a palette cleanser. Therefore, I started a new series. I started Chestnut Springs. This is Flawless by 𝘴𝘰𝘤𝘪𝘢. You've definitely heard of this too. This is a massive book talk series. Cowboys, romance, very light, fluffy, easy. Considering these books are nearer the 400 mark, which I typically don't go towards when it's romance, these books are so good. They're just fun. I will never not talk about on these books. They're just such good vibes. 4 stars. I'm really not a romance reader because I just find them boring. These are done right. Done so right. Another massive book talk book you've definitely seen. The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. This is one of the first thriller books I've actually enjoyed. Freida McFadden, she knows what's up. She knows what's up. Personally, I think the hype's spot on. I'm so excited for the show to come out. Essentially, our main character Millie is hired by a couple as a housemaid to clean their house. And before you know it, this couple turn out to be a little bit spooky and she's not in a good place. This one was also a 4 stars. Love by love. I think at this point we can definitely guarantee that I'm a book talk lover. I absolutely consume it in large quantities. Because next up we've got Normal People by Sally Rooney. I'm going to give you a controversial opinion here. Only a 3 stars. Well, actually, I gave it a 4 stars on Goodreads, but I would probably now say 3 stars. It's based in Ireland. It's about 2 people, miscommunication, that back and forth invisible string. Never act, but the... I don't know what to say. You're basically watching 2 best friends also have this constant flame between them, but it's never really worked on. And therefore there's this constant clash. They're never really on the same wavelength, but there's a constant attraction between both of them. And it's so frustrating to read about, which is why I probably didn't enjoy that much. I'm not a miscommunication person. I just think get to the freaking point, man. Sally Rooney is known for not putting a lot of punctuation, like she won't do speech marks. Some people struggle to read that. Personally, didn't bother me at all. So I do like the writing. It was definitely beautiful writing. The storyline's really well thought out. Things come back in later on in the book that I thought was really well done. So as an author, love. I then audiobooked Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I've read Beach Read and Happy Place. I gave them both 3 stars. However, as books, I really struggle to enjoy romance, as I've said, and Emily Henry's one of them books I just personally can't really read. I need to audiobook it because there's just not enough going on for me. But as an audiobook, I absolutely loved Book Lovers. I gave it a 3 stars, which is actually quite good in my opinion. So it says that Emily Henry is a romance, contemporary romance, domestic fiction and humorous fiction. I would definitely stand by that. It's definitely not just a romance. There's always a life to be lived as well as these 2 people just interacting, which I really enjoy that aspect. Because I attempted to read The Vagus Nerve Reset, not really my thing. I started it because I have anxiety, so I thought it'd help with me like reprogramming my nervous system. It literally was just like reading a science textbook, which really is not my vibe. I was hoping for a little inspirational, motivational, like speech, right? But instead, I feel like I just got someone's trauma dump on me, which really just wasn't what I was going for. But obviously, that's just what she was going for. So if that's the sort of like, you're going to enjoy it, well, my vibe, I gave it a 2 stars. Oh my God. Oh my God. This next book, guys, she was good. She was so good. So this book is the 8th book in the Throne of Glass series, so you know what's coming. This is the longest book I've ever read, 1,000 pages. 1,000 pages. Like, how do you have that much to say? But it makes so much sense when you've read the series. I read Kingdom of Ash. I don't even need to speak on it that much because obviously it's a book in a series. If you haven't read the series, you're not going to get it. But if you do get it, you get it. This book alone is worth reading the other 7 books just so you can read this. There's something so beautiful about this series. In the first book, you're starting by following an assassin called Selena Sardothien, and she ends up being thrown onto a path to find her legacy, like what she's destined for sort of thing. Oh, it's beautifully done. Sarah J Maas kills it every single time is all I'm gonna say. 5 stars. Because I liked The Housemaid so much, I read The Housemaid's Secret by Freida McFadden. Equally as good, 4 stars, loved it. This one, I was definitely worried it was going to be repetitive because how much can you write about a housemaid? We're going to find out, aren't we? This one does start similar, however, because it didn't... At the beginning of this book, she tries to step out of the housemaid career job because it didn't end so well last time. However, someone rehires her and wants specifically her, and she's like, okay. And then you find out she wasn't really hired to be just a housemaid, which, if you've read the first book, you can kind of probably guess. I love this book and I read it so fast. I'll definitely recommend her books. Although, I've heard the next few books in this series aren't so great, so I personally aren't going to read them. Please let me know if you've read the rest, because maybe I will dive back in. If you know me, you know one of my favourite shows ever is The Last Kingdom. Actually, I had 𝘴𝘰𝘤𝘪𝘢 on my birthday cake when I turned 20. Which I think is kind of iconic. There's nothing wrong with being a nerd. There's nothing wrong with it. And because I loved the series so much, I thought, why not read the books? I wasn't going to read them because I've made the mistake before of watching the films and then reading the books, i.e. Harry Potter. I hated the books because the films are just so good. So I decided to audiobook The Last Kingdom instead of reading it. However, I did find the book in the charity shop, which obviously I was going to pick up, which aren't too bad. So I was like, you're coming home with me. So The Last Kingdom is historical drama, historical fiction, science fiction, melodrama, a bit of war, action, romance, history, the whole shebang. You're basically following 𝘴𝘰𝘠𝘪𝘢, who is actually a fictional character, and everyone else in the series are based on real people, which is kind of ironic. I don't know the specifics, but it's about when the Vikings and the Saxons were clashing and were trying to fight for their land. Who knew Vikings were so interesting? Like, whenever I recommend this series, people look at me like I'm fucking crazy. They literally just go... I really enjoyed whenever they'd mention like a character or a specific large scene, I can picture it in my head from the series, and I liked having that comparison where I can like see the people's faces in my mind. I love Vikings, so I've been watching Last Kingdom, Vikings, that's it, but still 2 shows. Who am I? I gave that 5 stars. Probably would give it 4 stars. I think I was in my vibe at the time, but nonetheless, great book. The show for this book actually just came out, We Were Lies by 𝘴𝘰𝘠𝘓 Lockhart. This is so popular. It's all over TikTok. Everyone is bawling their eyeballs out. And I'm actually so glad that I read it before the show came out, because as much as the show is just as good as the book, I would say, I really liked when I was watching the show, because I knew how it was going to end. I was crying every single episode that weren't even sad because I knew what was happening in the present, if that makes sense. You're following 4 cousins who go to a summer house every year. There's a lot of underlying family problems that you really dive into. But the main thing is that the main character, Katie, she had an accident a few summers ago, 1 summer, 2 summers, I can't remember. And she's trying to remember what happened, because she's got like a brain injury and no one will tell her what happened, and everyone's saying you have to remember for yourself because the doctor said so, and she's like racking people for information of that summer, and eventually it comes back to her at the end what actually happened in the summer, and you will cry. If you have any emotional capacity at all, you are going to cry. The plot twist of this book is crazy. Please read it, then watch the show, and then also once you get to the end and you know what's happened, reread it and you will see every single Easter egg that basically is telling you how it's going to end, but you won't notice until you know how it ends. It's crazy. It was done so well. This author absolutely killed it. I actually bought Genuine Fraud from the charity shop by her as well, because I just had to read more of her writing. I haven't read it yet, but I have to. I have to read more of her writing, because this book was crazy, bruv. It was crazy. I loved it. Very passionate, if you can't tell. I read this next book because I was doing a video where I was reading new authors for the first time, and Christina Lauren is a big romance author that is discussed, and I feel like the booktube world. So I picked up Tangled Up in You from the charity shop, gave it a 4 stars, maybe a 3 now. By the time I clearly enjoyed it, so that's a good sign. It's obviously a Tangled retelling. Rapunzel, my inner child, was screaming and crying. This book is about Ren, and her mother finally lets her go to college, very similar to the film, how the mum was doesn't let her leave the house, very protective. Very similar in this book, where her mum didn't want her to go to college. She's never had a phone before. She lives on a farm, very like grounded spiritual queen, kind of living my dream low key. They did a science experiment at school, and it basically turns out that she's got a little bit of family issues going on. They embark on this adventure together, and it's so fun watching them interact, because at first he doesn't like her. He thinks she's annoying, she's too happy, the classic grumpy sunshine. There's also a hot tub trope, and there's a single bed trope. One of the best things that have happened to me so far this year, I went to Lauren Roberts' Fearless book tour. If you've read the Powerless series, which is a 3-book series plus 2 novellas, you know that Fearless came out. First of all, how stunning is this book? Yes, she's signed. Yes, she is. She's signed. I obviously won't jump into it too much because it is the last book in the series. What I will say is the first 2 books are a whole different vibe to this book, but I think you just see the characters in their adult eras. By this book, they know who they are, they know what they want, and it's soul destroying watching them have to destroy other relationships to get what they truly want and what they truly desire. This book, tears streaming down my face. Like, it was horrible. It was gut-wrenching, but it was a 5-star book. I loved it. This whole series was 5 stars for me, so if that doesn't tell you to read it, I don't know what else will. Lauren Roberts is, I would probably say, my favourite author ever. Her writing is poetic. I freaking love it. Literally put on my Goodreads. I'm so unwell. This book tore my soul apart and put it back together. I've been going through life as if in a trance. I've currently been re-audiobooking the Throne of Glass series because it's such a big series. I just had to refresh my mind, and I therefore then audiobooked Assassin's Blade, which is the first book in the series. The first time I read it, I gave it a 4 stars. When I audiobooked it, I gave it a 4.5. And because I was then in my fantasy era, I decided to pick up Shadow and Bone by 𝘔𝘰𝘬𝘪𝘢𝘭𝘴. I think I've seen it on TikTok, so I just thought I'll get it, I'll pick it up, see what it's like. This is the first book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Wow. This is a really weird one for me, actually, because first of all, it's a Netflix show. I tried to start the Netflix show after reading this book. I could not get into it for the life of me. You know, you can tell a show is a book adaptation because it's just too cringe, and the lines they say, you know, they've pulled out of the book. That's what the show felt like for me. However, the book, I loved it. I gave this a 4 stars. I read it super duper fast, loved the characters. I've got Alina, I'm pretty sure she has like no powers or something. And then it turns out. And once again, after a fantasy book, it was time to hop back into my palette cleansers, which only meant one thing. It was time for the second book of the Chestnut Springs series. I was back in my cowboy ranch. I was gassed. I had ranch for the first time the other week. It was so good. The Eaton family. A dad, all his sons. Summer, in the first book, she ends up dating Rhett, one of the brothers. Summer's best friend comes into town. She ends up babysitting for another one of the brothers, Cade, and he's not happy about it because she's quite young, she's pretty, and he's like, wanted some old granny basically doing this job so he didn't have to like deal with some young, beautiful woman. You know how it goes. This book is age gap trope. It's also a bit of grumpy sunshine. What I do like about this book is we do dive into the aspect of why Cade is such a cold person. I also really liked seeing Willa bond with Cade's little boy. It was so sweet. 4.5 stars. She was good. Also, let me just say, if you like spice, Elsie Silver does good spice. Next up with 3.5 stars, we have A November 9th by Colleen Hoover. These are the epitome of a soap opera in a book. They're always full of drama, they're always so much going on, you're never bored, they're great palette cleansers. She's having a few career problems as well as family problems, and then she meets Ben and he basically saves the day. But because her mum made her promise that she wouldn't date anyone until I think she was 23, she has to tell Ben that like, we can't date, we can't be together. They wait 5 years and they only meet once a year on November 9th. And that is when the book basically takes place. Every November 9th you see them interacting. You soon find out that there's more that Ben has not told Fallon. The next book I only gave 2 stars. However, it's a very, very controversial book online. I've got 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. You've definitely seen this book. I picked it up in the charity shop because I just wanted to know what the controversy was about. And I'm definitely on the side of haters for this book. What I will say though is the storyline, the plot is really, really good. I just wasn't a fan of the writing. We're following Poppy and Rune, who were like childhood best friends, turn into lovers, they're dating. Rune moves away, even though they're still dating, Poppy just stops contact. Poppy eventually tells him why, and that is all in the first like 100 pages. And that plot twist is soul destroying. For the next like 2/3 of the book is what I assume to be them to live in the rest of their life while grieving what is going to happen in the future. I read the first 70 pages. I audiobooked the next like 30 pages and then I DNF'd at about 100 pages. My favourite part about this book that led me to giving it a 2 stars still is the epilogue, which is mental, that this whole book, and I'm gonna be rating it based off the epilogue. I've also been reading The Crystal Path by 𝘔𝘰𝘬𝘦. If you're spiritual, you like crystals, this is your book. Spiritual girlies, rise! Next up, I audiobooked The Pale Horseman by 𝘔𝘰𝘬𝘦. This is the second book in The Last Kingdom, and this is the beautiful man that was on my cake. If that doesn't convince you to watch the show, I don't know what will, girls, because that is just stunning. I gave this one a 3 stars. I just think it's because, I'm not sure. My name is �ヲ𝘰𝘬𝘦, son of 𝘴𝘰𝘬𝘪𝘢, lord of... When he was very, very little, his uncle took lands that were supposed to be in his name because he was so young. He got taken in by the Vikings, but he was born a Saxon. So he's kind of a bit of both, and he's kind of, throughout the entire series, he's never really on either side. And the last book that I finished before halfway through 2025... Iconic! This is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas, the first book in the Crescent City series. Obviously I've only read the first book, so who knows how confusing the next 2 are going to be. But I actually loved this book. I flew through it faster than a lot of her other books that I've read. I gave it a 4.5 stars. And a lot of her Throne of Glass books I only gave her 4 stars. String a sentence together, please. This is the last one. The only difference really between this book and her other series is that this one is a lot more modernised, which is kind of weird in the fantasy world to see like phones, but I absolutely love that aspect. A lot of people can't sit right with it. I ate it up. We've got our main character, Bryce Quinlan, absolute badass. In the first few chapters, something just horrible happens, heartbroken, but that kind of makes up for the rest of the book, and then the rest of the book is about what Bryce Quinlan does since said incident. She meets a lovely, morally grey, like, broody, love. Because of this morally grey man's position, which his name is Hunt, he is not trusted by many people. He has a lot of power. He can destroy you in seconds, but she just doesn't care because her life's already at quite a loss. They go on this quest together and they work out what happened in this first few chapters and how this came about. Oh my god, the plot twist in this book. And that is all the books that I've read in the first 6 months of 2025. I'm so excited to see what else is in store for us. I'm really excited that I found a few books that I really like. New series, new authors. I'm really proud of myself for stepping out of my comfort zone. Let me know what books you have on your TBR for the rest of the year because I would love to find some new ones. And I'll see you next time, lovely people.